Hello, dear listeners. If you're new here, we're Margin Mavens, and we are obsessed with writing in our books and sharing our thoughts with you guys. In this episode, we are talking about The Mime Order by Samantha Shannon, the second book of the Bone Season series. Paige Mahoney is back in London after escaping Oxford. Unable to fall seamlessly back into her role as the Whitebinder's Mollisher, she seeks to reinvent herself, shedding the role of the Pale Dreamer as she works to uncover more of Scion's dirty laundry. When Underlord Hector is murdered, she finds out that corruption is going deeper than she already thought, uncovering secrets that shake the foundation of what she thought she knew. Today, we are once again joined by Izzy, also known as Read These Fics, who is hosting a read along in preparation for the newest book, The Dark Mirror, coming out in 2025. As usual, our episodes come with spoilers, but feel free to come back to us once you've read the book. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Trigger warnings for this episode include gruesome violence, self-inflicted wounds, and talks of oppression. I loved this book.
I loved it better than the Bone Season.
Yeah. I gave it like a 4.5.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have been waiting since our last conversation. I finished it and I was like, it's still as good. It's even better than I remember.
Yeah.
They had better like it. Both of them.
Yeah.
So much better than the Bone Season.
Yeah, I think this one, like, it grips you a lot quicker than the Bone Season does. There's not really the, like, growing pain of falling back into the world.
Yes.
You are, like, immediately dragged in. You immediately want to know what's going on. You know, you are interested to figure out where the refs are, what's going on with them. You want to know where Warden is, like, all of these things, right? I was, like, feral leading up to trying to figure out what was going on with Warden. I was like, where is he? What is happening?
He was a pleasant surprise because I was expecting to have to go through the whole book without finding out.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I give you a little like Samantha Shannon tidbit real quick about Arcturus?
Yeah.
She adores him.
Yeah.
So much. She's talked about it so many times how she loves him so much. So I think you'll find that with the author caring as much about him as the readers do, you always get the perfect amount of him.
Yeah, he gets screen time, you know?
Yeah.
He always gets screen time, not too much to overshadow Paige, but you're never gonna be hungry for Arcturus, you know?
God bless. God bless.
Yeah, I was like feral. I was like, where is he? And then we get that like chapter at the beginning, that little like blurb, and it's like, oh, the giant was waiting for his pale dreamer to like find him. And I was like,
I have it right here.
Yeah.
Here it is. And somewhere a god was in chains again, waiting for a golden thread to lead the dreamwalker to him.
Yeah, and I was like,
yeah.
I was like, where is he? What's going on? What's happening?
My Instagram, I wrote, I am absolutely feral.
Yeah, look at this. Look at this. Okay, so for our readers, we are obsessed, right? So we get Paige is dropped back into London. She has to kind of make the decision, is she going to go back to Jackson and the Seven Seals, right? Which I was like, man, like I really feel for her because I know she doesn't want to, right? Like she does not want to be there. She does not stand for anything that he stands for. And it's so important because it makes sense. Like after she knows what she knows, she can't unknow it, you know? She can't just go back and like have that blind eye to it of like, oh, it's cool. People are suffering over there, but like I'm making money. I have this title, you know, and to have it be to where Jackson expects her to, you know, I was like, this man, like, I already loved Nick, right? But my love for him grew exponentially when he was very much like having that big conversation with her towards the beginning. And she's like, I just don't think I can like just stand here and let it happen. Right. And he like, she like ends the chapter with like, no, I don't think I can either. And I'm like, Nick would not be Nick if he was like, yeah, I'm cool with finding out that all these things exist and I'm not going to do anything to change it.
Right.
In a way, I feel like Nick is that friend at the job who's like been waiting for you to catch up that this place is toxic. And then Paige had to go through a penal colony to see that. And she's like, I can't do it anymore. And he's like, yeah, neither can I. And internally, he's like, oh my God, thank God. Thank God.
Yes.
I thought it was
I
crazy.
was staying around for you, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and Jackson knows that what does Nick have? Like this terrible job torturing other voyants for Scion and Jackson. And if he leaves Jackson, then he's just it's a ticking time bomb. And then also Paige reveals to us this other side of Jackson that even more enforces what I was saying about him being a cult leader, where he
Mhm.
has dirt on you. If he doesn't like you and he sees you as a threat, he's going to ruin your life. So leaving is impossible. And it's like if you're like me and you've watched so many cult documentaries, the
Yes.
deprogrammers are like the only way to get out of a cult is to basically destroy your life.
Yes.
Like your
Yeah.
life is going to
Yep.
be destroyed.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I love that is kind of what we witness Paige going through is the slow deconstruction of her life.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because you don't really get to see it beat for beat. It's usually a cataclysm, but what we see things come unraveled so spectacularly throughout this book.
Yeah, it's I knew that Samantha's world builds, you know? I walked into
Yep.
the series knowing that she knows how to build a world,
Mhm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But nothing really kept me as like gobsmacked until we get introduced to like the night market for the first time from like Paige's point of view.
Yes.
Because I literally have it written down, but I was like, as we dive deeper and deeper into this world, right? Samantha has thought of everything. Like there
Everything.
is not a single like trinket or object or pneuma that she has not considered how it plays a role.
Yep.
Um
The thinking
and
through how
like
a crime syndicate makes money
Yes.
was
yeah,
a big deal for me. I didn't expect that to ever be
Mhm.
explained. And then we
yeah,
talk about like the trafficking of spirits, selling
the ethereal
forged.
forgeries.
Yes,
Yeah.
Oh.
it's so good.
And then so my notes for this book, right? Because I finally created a structure for us when we're reading our books to like kind of have like a brain dump section so we can go kind of in order, right? Because my
Nice,
brain has to have some sort of order to like how we're yapping.
of course.
Um, but figuring out everything that like Paige was figuring out of like, oh, I don't want to be as Mollisher anymore, right?
Right.
But
Mhm.
I need it in order to make a difference. Like I am
Yeah.
nothing if I am like cut off from this guy,
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
she can't
But
fulfill the promises she made to the people she rescued without him.
yeah, and so it's and so then the person who I'm like curious about towards or at the beginning, the moment that Paige comes back into this like fold, the person that I was immediately like, yo, what's going on with you is Nadine. Because I'm like, last we saw of you, you like hated this man's guts. You know,
Mhm.
like you were constantly like, I don't want to be here, but your brother wanted to be here. And so like all of these things, you know, and then we come back and she's been acting as his right hand,
Yep.
right? Is immediately
Yep.
upset that Paige is back.
Mhm.
Yep.
But then like Paige has that like real conversation with her of like, dude, like he never even started a rumor that you could be taking over. You know, like he made you do all the work, but is not like giving you that credit. You know,
Right.
and the moment I come back, he's willing to replace you and you're still willing to be angry for this guy. Like
Yeah.
I'm just
Well,
curious about
Nate,
her.
I think that Nadine in this book is the new Carl. And I mean
Mhm.
that in the way of like Paige saw bits of the parts that she didn't like about herself and Carl in the Bone season. And then in the Mime Order, Nadine is like young Paige, like
Yeah.
desperate for
Yeah.
Jackson's approval, but also like not blind to the fact that the want also comes from a need. Like Nadine needs to protect Zeke,
Right.
and Jackson is the way to do that. So
Right.
I remember the first time I read the Mime Order, I really did not appreciate Nadine as much as I did this go around, which is
Mhm.
just that I was like, Paige, why are we still nice to her? And I think in this author's preferred text, it she gets it across a lot more that Paige feels a little sympathetic and almost embarrassed for Nadine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because she's like very openly like desperate to like take
Yes.
this position back,
Yes.
you know? And I'm like,
Yeah.
And a
everyone
lot of
around you
that
is like watching it and being like, oh, this is kind of embarrassing of her because
It's
Paige is back. We
embarrassing.
all know
yeah,
that Paige is going to take that role of Mollisher
right.
back, right? Jackson is doing all of these things for Paige, things that he would
Yep.
not be willing to do for Nadine, and everybody is aware of it, you
Oh
know?
my
And
god,
like,
Nadine's like a pick-me.
yeah,
Yes.
Like, with
yeah.
higher
And
It's all
so,
stakes.
yeah, it's all wrapped up
yeah,
in her self-worth. Because
yeah.
Yeah.
what
And
else
it's
does she bring to
really,
the table?
yeah, it's really rough.
Yeah.
The
It is.
part that had me immediately like I was like tippy tapping on my little notes. My kids are like watching a movie because we've had long blocks this week. My kids are watching a movie based on what we were reading, and I'm over here reading the Mime Order, right? No, unrelated. They're watching like Beowulf, which is a weird movie. I digress. Um, but I'm like tippy tapping as I'm reading and stuff. And first off, this book is a and it's surprising, but this book is a lot more violent, obviously, than the first one. We made a lot
Mhm.
of comparisons to the Hunger Games in the first one, but this one is very Hunger
Hunger
Games,
Games, yes.
you
Mhm.
know?
Paige is
And
very Katniss coded
yeah,
in
she's
this book.
very
Yep.
Katniss coded in this, you know? And so the part that immediately had me tippy tapping is Hector and his gang. Like, I was like,
Which part?
Paige, the first introduction of him in this book, right, where
Okay.
he is
Yeah.
like blatantly like beating the crap out of Paige to prove a
Yeah.
point, you know, is
He
wild.
Well, because she doesn't have protection, Jackson's protection.
Yeah,
if
and
you read The Pale Dreamer,
uh-huh.
he is introduced in that, and Paige is like 16 and he's threatening to break her jaw. It's like that man does not stop.
Yeah, and so to have that happen, right?
Yeah.
And first off, like one, it obviously makes it to where you're supposed to hate Hector, right? He's not supposed to be a character you like, but it also makes you like, or at least made me respect Paige even more
Mhm.
because despite the fact that she's heavily outnumbered, right? She doesn't grovel, she doesn't like falter, you
No,
know?
she's too
She's like
prideful.
yeah, she's got that stuff to her. But then when he takes the painting and she's like, "Oh, I have to go back in to get it," kind of thing. And when she walks in and finds them all just like dead, I literally my jaw was like on the floor. I was like,
Yeah.
"What
Yep.
just happened?"
Mhm.
And so it ends up being a lot more there's a specific point in my notes where I literally say like since when is this book a murder mystery? And the entire thing was very reminiscent of like the original like Clue movie where
Oh
it's
yeah.
like these people are dead.
Yep.
Mhm.
We know where they were, we know who the victim is, but we don't know what the what or the who.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yep.
you're spending the entire book literally trying to figure out what that bigger picture is, who killed these people.
Mhm.
And Paige is like a literal like detective trying to like piece everything together, you know, but unfortunately for her, she's always piecing things together seemingly like a step late. So she's
Yeah.
like, wait, I need to do this thing. But then she like, and I think it's so interesting because once again, we're with Paige in the terms of like the audience has no more knowledge than she does.
Yeah.
Other than like the fact that Warden was in chains before she knew he was in chains. You know, for the entire series so far, we really are like figuring things out as she's figuring them out.
Yeah.
And it's more like heartbreaking that way because
It
you're
also
like, oh no, we're
makes
figuring it out, but we're a little too late, guys.
no, and I think that's what that's one of the I don't normally jive with the first person POV.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I prefer third. Um, but if like I can't even critique the first person POV of the Bone Season series because it is so important.
Mhm.
And also Paige telling you the story is just pivotal, I think, to understanding how vital all of her actions are. And there was a point where Samantha Shannon said that she toyed with the idea of adding an Arcturus POV. And I'm really glad she didn't.
Mhm.
The reason she said she didn't was she thought it took away from the mystery of him to like know how he thought and
Mhm.
stuff. But I also just I don't like adding POVs if they're not going to add something to the narrative. If
Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
only to fulfill like an audience
Yeah.
like
Leave that for
curiosity,
fan
make it
fiction, you
Yeah.
know?
leave it for fan fiction, leave it for bonus content. I don't need
Correct.
it
Mhm.
in the series.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad that it's just Paige when we
Yeah,
Especially
get
'cause
because
that
it's
stuff.
ultimately Paige's story. Like,
It's
everybody else
Paige's
is a
story.
supporting character.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
think, and to that point, like this I think that one of the big like the best things about Paige is that she recognizes early on in the Mime Order the thing that like motivates her to stand up to Hector, and to be kind to his Mollisher cut mouth, um, is that she realizes that everyone has their own story going on. Everybody's their own, and I think that Samantha Shannon writes each side character like such a main character. Like, well, I'm sure we'll get more into Cutmouth, but Cutmouth, if we were gonna get a bonus novella about one
Lo
character,
Yes,
I need Chelsea's book. I
I
need it.
do. Yep. With Ivy included, please.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say, did I talk about Ivy?
I
Her, I want
think
to know about that.
I need
I
to. I need to know more.
I knew
It was so lesbian coded. Like,
uh,
I
yeah, I knew
It
pretty
was
early on to this
immediately.
one
yeah.
that there
Yes.
was something more to Ivy. Like when she was like, "Oh, I was just a gutterling." And I'm like,
No,
"There's
you
no
weren't.
way.
No, you
There was
weren't.
no way that you would
No.
have been tortured for as long as you were if they did not think you knew more than what you did."
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, like they and so as we start getting more and more about the rag dolls, right?
Oh,
First
yeah.
off,
Yeah.
I love the scene when Paige goes and rescues Warden. The entire scene from beginning to end, I loved it because of their almost like wordless communication. Like these people haven't seen each other in so long. He's
Mhm.
like halfway delirious because he hasn't been feeding, and they're still able to like escape and get out of this situation with very
Yep.
few words just from like him. My like the part that sticks to me is when he points at the jukebox, she takes out a quarter and he puts it in because
Yes.
I'm like,
Yep.
this is such a back and forth like teamwork thing, and it was
They're
Yes.
so
such a
good.
couple.
Yeah,
They're such
Yeah.
a couple.
it's so good to me.
I
Um,
I
ah,
like I love my favorite. It's my favorite. There's so the reuniting trope. It's a trope.
mhm,
I love it. And it's my favorite trope. And this one has my favorite reuniting quote ever, which is Paige Mahoney. His voice was almost too soft to hear. Good of you to come to my rescue.
Yes.
It's
yeah,
such an
It's so good.
Arcturus way to be
Ugh.
rescued. It's like, oh, how polite of you to come to my rescue. It's very nice of you. You didn't have to come here.
yeah.
Yes.
And Paige is
I
like, shut the up.
I most of
Oh.
my quotes that I picked out from this book are all usually dealing with Warden or Paige talking about Warden. Right?
Yeah.
Because I just the way that she talks is about him specifically is so different from the way she talks about the world. Because with the
Yes.
world, she's very blunt, she's very sharp, she's very like, I either kill or I'm being killed. Like it's very cut
Pessimistic
and dry.
almost.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Then
Yeah.
with Warden, right? The first thing that she like says about him when seeing him again after was like Arcturus Masarthan belonged to the ancient halls of Magdalene, to candlelight and libraries and music from a century ago. And I'm like, this is wild. Like you are saying you're in love with this man without saying you're in love with this man.
She
Um,
waxes poetic about him
and
like
then
crazy.
he does the same thing
Truly.
because he does it so bluntly. Like she's so poetic, but he's so matter of fact.
Yeah.
Like there's a point where he says, like, if I could choose anyone on earth, it would still be you. And I was like, ugh, because she's like, dude, like you could have picked anybody else. Like if this didn't go well, or like now you see everything we're going against, like you can pick anybody else. And he's like,
Yeah.
this is it, right? However, the part that made me want to sock him in his 7 foot tall face is when he is like, hey, we can't tell anybody about us, right? Not
Oh.
because I didn't understand.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
understood where he was coming from, but it was the fact that that was the first time he brought it up.
Yeah,
I was like, bro, like you could tell her like, hey, for the sake of this working, for the sake of the history, making sure the alliance stands, they cannot know that we
yeah,
are romantically interested and we have done all these things because I will be a blood traitor and all of whatever. I understood it. I understood why he was saying that, right? But to
yeah,
be in Paige's brain and have it be where she was consistently being like, are we going to talk about it? Are we going to bring it up? And then his first mentioning of it being like, we can't talk about it. I was like,
yeah.
oh,
Oh yeah, you're
you're
you're so
killing me.
frustrated for Paige
Yeah.
because Paige has already made the decision, like Arcturus, whether she's already made a decision. I'm his girlfriend, and that's like I'm dating him now.
Yeah.
And whether she admits it or not, and she didn't know that this was a part of it. I think
Yeah.
she had a suspicion that it might be, but I
Mhm.
think that like us, we hoped that the Ranthan were different, like
Mhm.
completely from the
Right.
Sargus.
Yeah.
We were like, oh, they're gonna be all for like human equality
And they're
and
not.
no, not at all. The Ranthan are such an imperfect resistance where they're like,
Mhm.
yeah, we think that you're equal to us and as humans can be, but you know, just don't touch us or anything. And we're
Yeah,
fine.
Yeah.
remember your
And
station. And I was like,
the bar is in
buddy.
hell. And then but you know what's perfect about that is that the Mime Order, they are also an imperfect resistance. So the
Mhm.
Mime Order and the Ranthan are equally matched. And Paige and Arc together serves the purpose to create perhaps a resistance founded on equality finally. And
Yeah.
Mhm.
I love that Samantha Shannon made the choice to say there are no good guys here. Good people are a battle that is hard won.
Yeah.
And I think that
Beautifully
that's
put.
what thank you. I think that's what drew me to this series is that I love a good love story, but I want the love story to be integral to the plot.
Mhm.
And Paige and Arcturus represent everything they have to overcome in order to bring peace back between everybody. Like it
Yeah.
can't, they are the catalyst of it all in a way that Peta and Katniss sort of
Mhm.
Mhm.
represented things, but it's like more multifaceted. I could go on and on. I'm gonna
Kayla,
stop.
darling, you look like you have thoughts. I know that we
Yeah,
are the yappers,
That's okay.
yeah,
but interrupt us.
yeah. Interrupt us.
No, I love listening to both of you and your opinions and thoughts on
Yeah,
the book
listeners,
because
this
it's
is
like,
something I need you guys to realize. I, after every episode, have a conversation with Kayla, and I'm like, am I
no,
talking
you
too much?
don't. Not every episode.
But like when it comes to editing, 100%, because I'll stop editing and be like, I talk a lot. Is this a problem?
I
No,
And
I
actually
love
looked at
it.
my
and
husband and I was
yeah,
like, I think we didn't let her talk enough. I told Dylan after, I was like,
yeah,
she was our
No,
hype
I
woman,
love
and
it. This is
yeah.
my jam.
She loves listening. She is such a good listener, but like
Thank
I am
you.
aw,
consistently, whether I'm verbally stating it or whether I'm like just mentally freaking out, I'm like, oh no, I think I'm taking it all from Kayla. But then like when she has something to say, she's like ready to sock me in the face. Like I'm aware, but I'm constantly self-conscious about it. Of like, oh, I don't want the listeners to think I'm like holding her at gunpoint and being like, this is me and only me. Like,
You're
same.
silly. You're
No,
silly.
but I would love to hear your thoughts on the
yeah.
reuniting scene because you said that reunitings is like one of your favorite
Yes,
tropes. How
it's
did you
definitely
feel
Mhm.
one of
about
my
this?
favorite. I it's a different kind of it's funny because I just finished another book with a reunion trope and it was completely different from Paige and Warden. And so it was like, the difference between the two where like Paige and Warden left on good terms and like the other couple that I read didn't necessarily leave on good terms. So like just the back and forth between Paige and Warden, it very much felt like they just sort of like slipped back into what they were
Yeah,
back in the penal colony and they just sort of like picked up where they left off. And that
that
was I
dynamic.
love that. I love that dynamic so much between two people where it's just like doesn't matter how long it's been, like you can pick it up and put it down and nothing changes.
Yeah,
Even
and
even
there's
when the people change.
Mhm.
I was gonna say like I feel like in a lot of reuniting scenes, there's a big regression in the relationship, and we go
Yes.
back to square one for some reason, and that did
Yep.
not happen in this
No.
book, which I
Yeah,
love.
Nope.
they like grew together.
Yes.
The part where he like asks her like, okay, in order for this to work, I need to understand how the syndicate works. And so
Yes.
she what was interesting to me is that could have easily been a like curtain fall scene,
Yeah,
where she's like, okay, and this is how it works. And then like the chapter ends and they move on. Right. But Samantha takes the time to make sure we understand how the syndicate works. And that
yeah,
was super important to me
Well,
because
yeah, because
I always have these questions,
up
like,
until this part, we only got bits and pieces.
yeah,
Like,
we
we
get
only
like,
know
oh,
Hector is the Underlord and
mhm,
Jackson, and maybe we know a
yeah,
couple other.
yeah.
mm,
And so we get like more of that, which was nice. I kept asking, oh my God, I just saw Kayla's answer to one of my questions where
Oh.
I said, like, why is Jackson so strapped for cash all the time? Right? Because everybody's kind of
He's an
with him.
alcoholic, baby cakes. He is an alcoholic. That is where his
Yeah.
money is going.
Yeah.
yeah.
Cause
It's going to
I was
forbidden
like,
booze.
surely. I was like, surely he's got money, because all of these people around him are like, oh, like our finances are good. We bring in a lot of money. And so for him to constantly be like, oh, and whatever, I was like, wait, why?
There's
And
there's a reason Paige talks a lot about, like, Jackson
the
being.
amaranth and the
Yes,
absinthe and
all of the
yeah.
like, there is a reason, and, like, you pick up on that real quick that, like, okay,
Yeah.
Jackson has a problem.
Yeah, if
Hmm.
Eagle blood mechs are super expensive.
Yes.
How much do we want to guess bottles upon bottles of
Yeah.
absinthe cost?
Yeah.
Right.
Nick's salary for the month is all
Yeah.
on Jackson's booze.
Yes.
Yeah. And I just the explanations, the time it takes to help us understand why they are the way they are, just all of them, right?
Yeah,
Like Gordon sitting down with Paige and being like, the refs don't like people because they're a constant, like, as immortal beings, they're like, everything here is dying, and that's kind of gross. Like every second of every day, everything is dying. And
decaying.
I'm like, no, I get it. I get it now because
Yeah,
like the Rantham obviously are the milder version of hatred towards the humans,
yeah,
right? But they still have that like you're
prejudice.
constantly dying. Are
Mhm.
you
Yep.
okay? And it's like, no, we're not. But that's not our fault. We didn't choose to be dying. Um
But and then we see Arcturus has kind of a different thought about it. And why? Because he found art and music.
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
That killed me
Fund the
when
arts, guys.
she's like, why do you not think that we're disgusting, decaying people? And he's like, because I found your art and literature and music. And I
Right.
get
Yeah.
it. I get why you guys like destroy and decay, and it makes this beautiful stuff.
Yeah, you guys feel
And
things, The
I was like crying. I was like, the human race is beautiful. It's so good.
yeah. And
He's
I
got a
All
just
very
trash.
doctor-esque quality to him when it
yeah.
Yes.
comes to,
He
yeah.
really does. Yes. Very much like at 9, 10, 11. Like, just
I was gonna say 10, very
pro-human. Yes.
subdued, single tier David Tennant,
Yeah.
10
Yes.
doctor
Yeah.
vibes.
And
100%.
I just everything about them.
Are we not gonna talk about the training session?
I literally
Oh,
was gonna say my favorite scene in this book. Excuse me, I have 3 favorite scenes, right? First
okay.
one, the scene where Warden chooses to train her again, but by dancing, right? And Paige explains it so well because she literally says he could have chosen to train her anyway, but he chose to train her in a way that was kind and that was loving and that basically like a caress, but
Mhm,
training.
mhm.
And
Mhm.
he chooses that. He's like, I would have chosen to train you like this before if it was allowed. But
Right.
he knew that they wouldn't have been allowed to train in this like capacity of like touch,
Mhm.
Yeah.
And um no, that was one of my favorites. And the fact that I like that neither one of them takes the time together for granted.
Yeah.
Paige is
Yeah.
very upfront about like he could have chosen any way to train me, but he's doing it this way.
Right.
Mhm.
Both of them are like, we have to like steal these moments together, but like these are moments I want when
And the
yes.
juxtaposition
Mhm.
between Warden training her and
And
Jackson training
man,
her.
sock him in the face. Sock him in the face. Put him, make sure he's on the ground and don't let him get up, you know? Like,
Amen.
and then to have Warden and Paige, like having Paige be so understanding of like who Warden is, you
Yeah.
know, and being it, and then Warden on the same page being like, same page, sorry. Warden having that moment of when they're like sleeping together for the first time, right? For the
Yeah.
listeners, they're sleeping. They're not
Literally
sleeping
sleeping.
together.
Resting.
No,
Um,
that you would have
it
heard
would
the
have been screams.
screams.
But having them have that first night of actually sleeping together and having
Mm.
one of my favorite sub scenes in that was when Paige explains that she had woken up and she like went at him with a knife, like instinctually because she forgot. And
Yep.
he like understood and let her calm down. And then like they just went back to bed. I was like,
Mhm.
this is so telling because he has never faulted her for being slow to trust him or still having things that she needs to get over. You know, they
Yeah.
have the conversation where she's like, you know, I probably will never forget the fact that you like went into my memory. And he's like, kind of jokes about it in a way. And he's like,
Yeah.
I have a big respect for memory. I did not expect you to forget it.
Yeah.
And like all of these things. And I love them so
Yeah.
much. And then my second favorite scene was
Uh-huh.
Warden's confession towards her because it was so needed. It was like that breath of like, oh my God, I can breathe. Like
Yeah.
as the reader, as Paige, like all of
Mhm.
it, where I was like, oh my God, does he not like her? You know,
Mhm.
because he does, you know, I'm feeling all the things she's feeling of like, okay, he said we can't talk about it, but we haven't even talked about it with ourselves. We haven't fallen back into that side of things. And then for him to be like, I know that I'm never going to get like 100% of you, but like if you still want me, like I want you. And I was like, oh my God.
He's so
People don't
vulnerable.
He
confess
is.
like this, you know? Like,
Please give me men written by women.
Oh,
please give me more Samantha Shannon
I was
writing
gonna
men
say specifically Samantha Shannon men. Thank
Yes.
because
you.
they're so
Open.
self-aware
Yeah.
and they're not afraid. He could have easily just been like, we're gonna fall into this nice rhythm that we've always fallen into, but I'm never gonna verbally tell her,
Right.
right? And yet he is like, no, no, no. I need you to not mistake. Me not talking about it with the refs is because X, Y, and Z, right? And I also do not want anything to ruin it. You know, I want that sanctity. I want that for it to be for us.
Yeah.
And uh, no man, every book that we read that Warden is in, he is going higher and higher on my book boyfriend list.
Oh yeah, he'll be at
And
the
that list
top.
is long.
Yeah.
Like,
Just wait till we get to the novella, The Dawn Chorus, which you both read.
we will, we will. I saw the schedule. I put it down.
Because I made a note on, I don't remember which post, but I was like, if you
If you
read
want, yeah.
the chorus, you have to read the Dawn
Uh-huh.
Chorus. Because we get these like soft flashbacks to the Bone Season moments we didn't see. And then
Mhm.
also some present. Listen, just know that as you read this, I won't get too much into the songwriting. We're not there yet. It's worth it. It's worth it. It's worth it. It's
Yeah.
worth it. I know it's hard, but it's worth it.
I'm having such a hard moment, right? Because I got the Mime Order on Kindle,
Uh-huh.
right? I think I'm just gonna buy the rest of them physical because
Yeah.
I need them
Oh,
like in my hands, you know? Like
and
I
they're
need
beautiful too.
yeah, I need
I can't bite my iPad, but I can bite my
yeah.
book.
Like I can't I'm like I want to rip into this. I want to tangibly like tab it. I want to highlight in it, like
If
all of
I
these things because
can't
I'm
throw it
highlighting
across the room without like
if I can't
breaking it.
threaten people with it,
Yeah.
like and so I will be ordering the rest of the series
Yes.
and in paper so that I can and I'll probably end up rereading the Mime Order in paper so I can put the marks that I have.
All your
Um
screaming, yeah.
yeah, like literally okay. So I'm moving us on along a little bit, right?
Go
So I
ahead.
mentioned that the Rose Ring got us very Hunger Games,
Yes.
right? I love the fact that once she comes to the point where she realizes she needs to become that Under Queen, she cannot work under Jackson, right?
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
such a hard moment for her because obviously she's like, it would be so much easier
Yeah.
if I was just okay with being Mollisher Supreme and like all of these things.
Until he kicked the bucket and it was mine.
Yep.
And I like that Arcturus is very like the moment that he's such a boyfriend, right? Because once again, he is still the guy that's gone to therapy, right?
Yep.
And he's like, what do you mean that he's locked the gates and given you a curfew?
Yeah. He's like,
Yeah.
Hey,
Talking
aren't
about
you a
right
grown
now.
woman?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aren't you? What?
Oh,
And
hey, he looks around and he goes, "Oh, it's so weird. I thought we weren't in a penal colony anymore."
yeah,
Yeah.
he like asks her point blank, like, how do you leave Nashira just to end up with him?
Well, and then at the very
And
start of the Mime Order too, Paige says that she says specifically that Jackson sounds like a riff.
Yeah.
yeah,
And I was like,
and the
there it is.
foreshadowing that becomes
Foreshadowing.
is crazy to me. We're getting there. We're getting there.
Yeah,
Hold
yeah,
on,
we're no,
everybody.
I'm keeping my mouth shut.
And so to have Warden give her those ideas for like for example, the world building, right? The way that people have to apply to fight in this rose ring is so cool with
With
like
the
the
flowers.
flowers,
Flower.
and having Warden be like, okay, if I've heard that we have to do it with flowers, do this,
Yeah.
Yes,
like he's so thoughtful.
he
And I
is.
like,
He's also very methodical.
yeah,
Yeah.
Like, he
yeah.
chose that for a
Mhm.
reason. Like,
And
he knew
like,
what she would wanna say.
I also am really happy that Paige makes a choice, right? When coming with this idea of like, oh, if I want to be Under Queen, I need a Mollisher, right? I
Mhm.
like that she doesn't go the route of Warden,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because she needs she's so smart about it because she knows that her Mollisher needs to be somebody that the syndicate would know,
Mhm.
right? Would need to be somebody that has the reputation of don't mess with me,
And
Mhm.
the
right?
connections.
And the connections, and then also just the fact that she's like, I want Warden, I want that connection with Warden, but I need them to be separate. I need it
Yep.
to not be wrapped up in the syndicate,
Yeah.
because I need to be able to have those boundaries and stuff like that.
Because it's
Um,
hers. It's
yeah, because it's hers, it's
theirs.
not the syndicate's.
Yeah.
Well, and she's
And
also realized that the syndicate is a really imperfect place to
Right.
exist.
yeah, and she's like, I don't want him to be in that, because
Yeah.
we're gonna have to make calls that don't work. We're gonna have to make calls that are not good, that I morally don't necessarily stand by all the time, because
Mhm.
it's what's better for that, the whole.
The amount of times she's gone,
I know. Just, like, put out her arms, like,
My third
"Okay."
well, because I always knew that when writing or getting ready to talk about these books, I wanted a better structure for my brain, right?
yes.
Because
Mhm.
my brain
Ping
goes too
pong.
fast.
It's a pong game. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and so I
No,
need to
it's
be
that's
able to
fair.
go, like, in
Yeah.
order, right? And so it was so funny because Kayla goes, "Oh, I started using your template and I love it." And I'm like, "It's almost like I do this for a living." Like I had to figure out a way that I can take this book and go, "Okay, how can I analyze this in a way that makes sense?" Without it being super
You can
stuffy and too
take the
formatted.
educator out of the classroom.
Yeah, but you can't
While
take
while we're
yes.
while we're still on the topic of her entering to become
Mhm.
Mind Queen, the quote from chapter 10, I would have to become not just a Mollisher, not just a Mind Queen, but the Under Queen of the Scion Citadel of London.
Yep.
The chills I
Yeah.
get
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
Paige doesn't really talk formally. She's always like, I should have
Right.
told him to get and stuff like that
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
the time. And she just gets so whenever Samantha Shannon makes her get serious like this in her
It's the equivalent
narration,
of like putting her hair up when you're
oh
like
yeah,
doing
she's like
something. She's like, "Oh
rolling
Very
her
my
tough.
sleeves
goodness."
up,
Yeah.
and I'm
Like,
like,
Yeah.
ugh. Um I liked we were talking about Jackson as a cult leader, right? And the
yep,
fact that she takes a lot of steps to make sure that when she puts things into play, he can't
act,
immediately get her.
Yeah.
You know, even with like the poltergeist, the phantom blade, right? The fact that she doesn't tell him that it's gone,
Yep.
right? She doesn't tell him that she can possess and that she can do these things,
Mhm.
right? There's no one like her. She is the it girl. And the
Mm-hmm.
fact that all of these people are constantly, it's so weird to me how Jackson exists, right? Because he's
Yep.
constantly hyping up her skills. He's constantly talking about how great of a like
Mollisher, she
voyant she
is,
is,
and
a
Voyant,
Mollisher and
yeah.
stuff, right? And then he's almost surprised when she supersedes that. And I'm like, dude, you've created this weapon and now you're surprised that it's sharp. Like,
He he literally gives her everything that makes her successful, including her pamphlet that she
yeah,
puts out when he
Yeah.
tells her, "And words, my walker, well, words are everything. Words give wings even to those who
I
have
wrote
been
that
stamped
down.
upon, broken beyond all hope of repair."
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
And I'm
she
like,
puts
you
out
then
this
are
pamphlet.
surprised?
Yeah.
She puts out the pamphlet, and he's that Pikachu meme when he
Yeah.
realizes it was her, and he goes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're getting into the juicy parts. I'm literally vibrating with excitement. Okay. Going into that ring,
"Yes."
right?
Mhm.
As the audience, as that first read through, we don't know what's happening, right? I had an inkling how it was going to end because there was only a logical way for it to end in my brain, right?
But
Mhm.
with Samantha Shannon, you never know.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, it makes sense if it ends this way, right? When she realizes that she's being teamed up against
Yeah.
in this ring, I went, "Oh my god, things are bigger." I felt like
Yeah.
my brain got bigger because I
Yeah.
was like, "Man, like she really is so smart." Because in that moment, I 100% would not be paying attention to how
Yeah.
many people are fighting other people, you know, but
Yep.
she puts it together and she's like, "Wait, Jackson is going against one person and he's going for the crown. I'm
Mhm.
just here supporting him and I'm
Yep.
dealing with four different people." And
Yep.
then to have it to where she starts going against that wicked lady, right? And she's like,
Mhm.
wait, all of these people are taking knives for her
Yeah.
and they're
Yep.
not with her. Like they're not connected to her. They're not
Mhm.
her Mollisher. They're not anybody in her district, right?
Yep.
Why is she being protected? And Paige has that moment,
Yep.
right? And then when she finally, first of all, the whole fighting in this ring was so
Yeah.
cool to me
So well written.
because she
Cinematic,
goes in
right?
and out. She goes in and out of getting the job done and adding those dramatic flares. You
Mhm.
Yeah.
know, she's like, "Oh, I did a backflip because I'll get it in while I can." You know, like
Yeah.
before things get too serious, I'm gonna give them those dramas. I'm gonna bow for them. I'm gonna do all these things because it's
Catch a
what they
Rose.
want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's
Oh,
She's playing it
okay.
up.
When they're about to put the crown on Jackson and
Yeah.
following her monologue of like, I could easily just say like nothing and like it'll be easy and
Mhm.
I won't have to fight. I'm so tired. Like
yeah.
all of those things back to back because the reality is it's not like she was just like twiddling her thumbs. She
Yeah.
was being consistently fought and having to fight for her life for those minutes leading up to this, knowing that she is now about to have to do it again on such a grander scale because Jackson's not going to be pulling those punches.
Yep.
You know, she's not going to have an ally in that ring. Everything else, she was like, okay, you know, I'm fighting for my life, but I am still Jackson's tool. So like, I still have somebody watching my back to some extent,
Yeah.
right? To then go like, oh, I'm gonna have to like go against the one ally I had in this ring, and nobody else can intervene. Yeah, is crazy to me, right? So
But she yeah.
when they start fighting, first off, Danica, I
Mhm.
love her. I've loved her the entire time because I
Mhm.
love that like blunt, like I'm here to get things done. I'm like the brains and the
Imma
hands,
do what I need to do.
but
Y'all
that's it.
do your own thing.
Don't
Yeah.
come to me for emotions. Don't. all of
Mhm.
these things, right? And when she is fighting Jackson and things do not look like they're going super well for him or for her because she's running out of oxygen, she's like doing all these things, and Danica throws her another canister. I was like, oh my God, because if Paige does not win this, Danica has just signed like a death warrant.
Yep.
Danica, the muscle mommy, was
Yeah.
like, oh, you realize then, Danica Muscle Mommy Genius has never been fooled by Jackson.
Yeah.
Queen of compartmentalization has always been like, I just work here.
Yeah.
And so it's a huge deal when she gives up that, like, no, I walk a line to
Hmm.
clearly choose a side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
adore that moment.
I was like foaming at the mouth. Um when they get to the towards before the possession, right? But
Mhm.
Jackson makes a whole point and he's like, this fight has been going well, but they're not here to watch a physical fight, right? Let's use our skills. She uses her skill and he immediately goes to hit her with the king. I'm like,
Yep.
you just said, let's use our skills here. Let's give them something to see. And when she uses that skill and she scares you with it, you
He
go
doesn't look
back
to
to
be
the
ashamed.
physical, like raw employ in his own words, like Jackson is a weasel.
Yep. He's the worst.
He's the worst. Then
And
you go
he's
into
one of
his
my,
dreamscape,
yeah. Oh, his dreamscape is
is a nightmare.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm like, this dude is crazy. This dude is crazy. This is his dreamscape. He could make it look
Comes
anything
out of
that he
his
wants.
grave.
And it's just a grave?
It's a grave.
Like,
I
yeah, we're all making the same face. By the way, you can only see Izzy, but we're all making
Yeah.
the same
No,
face.
we were all going, hmm. Yeah, you get in there and you go, oh, this is an evil fucker. Yeah.
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 He's an
This
evil
is this is this is this and so we go into that dreamscape, right? And it's the desperation that he felt,
Yeah.
right? When he realizes that she's possessing him because she was like he goes and
Yeah.
like, "Oh, she can get into humans. I know that now." Right? But she still never told him about her ability to possess because she had never like successfully done it, So she's
Yeah.
like, "I'm not going to tell him I can do this thing." The desperation that he started feeling, I was like, yeah, yeah. Suffer, sob, choke.
And that's what she's
Yep.
felt all this time.
Yeah.
Well,
And
and then you also get a glimpse of how he managed to make himself the white binder from a gutterling. He
Mhm.
clawed and scraped and scratched anyone he could to
Yep.
get where
mhm,
he was, and nobody is safe from
yeah.
him.
And like,
His needs are
oh,
first.
Yes.
so many people really earned my heart in those moments during that scrimmage, right? Danica with the canister,
Yeah.
Maria just
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
verbally being like, kick his butt, like get
Yeah.
the smirk
Yeah.
off of his face. Because she's never hidden the fact that she doesn't like Jackson,
Yeah.
right? But she is once again planting that line of
Yeah.
even if he manages to win this and I know he's gonna come after me because I've just verbally gone against him, I'm
Mhm.
still doing it because I still have that faith, right? Every
Oh, yeah.
single person that supported Paige, even the nameless ones that we never know, they were just parts of the audience,
Yeah.
right? I'm like, all of you guys are so aware that if this does not go well and you are rooting for the wrong person, you basically made it to where your life will be hell.
You're fucked. Yeah.
You put a
Yeah.
target on your back.
Like, and so they earned my love, right?
Yeah.
When he unveils that he wrote her name down,
Mhm.
I
When he displayed the full name and I was like, that's the first thing in my head was like, that's not her full name though. Like that was
yeah.
Oh,
specifically
real quick though,
Uh-huh.
just like Nashira. He
Yeah.
did
yes.
exactly what Nashira wanted to do.
Yep.
That
Yeah.
hit me
Yep.
really
And
hard.
and the fact that like when it did it, I literally like it sucked the breath out of me. I was streaming at that point finishing this book and I just repeatedly was like, "Oh my god." oh my God, I'm fine. I'm good. This is fine. Everything's good. And to see it and have that moment, seeing it from Paige's point of view of, oh, he had planned for this. Not only did
Yeah.
he plan that I was going to betray him, but he has planned to basically make me his slave.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. And so I liked the foreshadowing that Samantha did of we got her middle name earlier in the book.
Yep.
Right. And so I also had that moment of like, haha, you wrote the wrong one.
Wrong name.
But to have her like play along with him was so smart because he's like, haha, I won. This is great. It's all good. And then for her to
Oh
be
yeah,
like,
come here, like,
actually.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so when she possesses him and makes him say the words,
Yep.
I was like, Paige can never do no wrong for me. She has
Big
won
Han
my
Solo
heart.
energy.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, she has won my heart. She will keep my heart, right? And have it be I forgot the person, but the mistress of ceremonies or whatever, Minty,
Minty.
having her repeatedly be like, oh, like Paige has done her research. She knows exactly what needs to be said. She knows what's against the rules, like all of these things, right? Having
Yeah.
all of that happen and then still the drama not being finished.
Nope.
Because you end up having Jackson leaves in a fit of a tantrum, right?
A
Sides are
tantrum.
drawn because Dean leaves with him, Zeke leaves with him, and then like
Well,
some business
we-
owners.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yes.
Zeke leaving with Jackson and specifically choosing the side that Nick was not on hurt me physically.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Like
also
I
taking the
felt
time
my
to
chest
squeeze Nick's
cave
hand.
in.
He squeezes Nick's, and Nick is like, no, I never expected him to choose me over his sister.
Yeah.
Y'all get married right now. Get married.
Uh,
One thing we haven't talked about that takes place in between all this is the mark on Paige's arm
Yes.
that Warden gets rid of with the amaranth.
Yes.
And wisely, because Paige knows that this is one of the things that Jackson has in his pocket.
Yeah.
She
That
doesn't
he'll
tell
use
him
against her.
one.
Yeah.
And when they lifted up her sleeve and there was nothing, oh my God, I scream every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm like,
Like,
oh, Jackson, you didn't plan for her to get out of
get
that.
the magical Neosporin and erase
Yeah.
it. No, sir.
The magical
so-
little Noxema, the
It's
Skin Medica.
the Vicks.
yeah.
It's so wild. And I know we've already kind of talked about this, but Jackson basically taught Paige everything that she has now used against him. And
She
he's
was his
still
apprentice.
surprised.
Yeah.
And he's still like in disbelief that she's done this. And I don't like the cockiness of man.
Of men,
Like
yeah.
I just
But what's so great about it is that what we later learn about Jackson, this is 1000% like karma. Karma right back at you.
100%.
What you did, baby. Like,
Yeah, and so I like how dramatic Warden is, right?
he's very
Because
dramatic.
so Paige wins under Queen, right? Everybody immediately is like, okay, this is interesting. The
That's the
Abyss
thing.
is
This happened.
like, I don't agree, right? And she is so bad at being believable.
Yeah.
Like she's like, oh, this, and this. I thought it was Paige that killed Hector this whole time.
But she hasn't had to act because she's
Yes.
had the rag and bone man like
Yeah.
fixing her in the background.
And so
The
she like
Addis,
unravels so quickly. It
Yeah.
was like delicious to read because I was like, man, you never
So
expected
lovely.
this like person and you never expected to get caught and like Ivy comes out and Warden with his drama.
You don't expect also to go toe before Warden shows up, Minty going toe to toe with the head of the Minty, who was so annoying at the beginning, like you can't enter the pamphlet place without an appointment.
Yeah.
And when I read her for the first time, I went, I hate her. Also, if she was on your side, she would be incredible.
So annoying. Yeah.
She's gonna
She'd be
pull
so
out,
annoying to the other team.
according
Yeah.
to Section A, like,
Yeah.
when I was like, oh, we
Eh,
like Minty.
yeah, because she's like Black Moth here, which for the listeners is
Rules are
Paige,
rules.
Yeah.
right? Like she puts her name in, obviously not as the Pale Dreamer, because
She
that's what
can.
kind of what I kept looking for dumbly. I was like, oh, like she needs to like apply, right? And so, yeah. And so to have that all happen and then for them to be like, oh, and to have the costume change.
Yep.
Yep.
I was like, man, like the lines, the dots, they're connecting. She's thought of everything, you know?
It's
She needs the
so
drama, she needs the flair, she needs all
it's
of
so
these things.
Katniss.
Mhm.
Katniss because Katniss
With the
has the
black
same
dress,
yes.
like,
Yes.
ugh. And
Katniss goes through the same preparation. Like when she
mhm.
realizes what the game is that needs to be played, that's what Katniss does. And Paige
Yeah.
in the same way. Like once she
Gorgeous.
understands the game,
She's ready to play it. Like,
she's better at it. She
yeah.
plays to win.
And so when they're all like, "Oh, like what is really going on or what are you talking about?" All of these things because she's like outing everybody and just Warden, flare of drama, comes in and goes, "She's talking about us." And I was like, "All right, bud."
He went, me.
Yeah,
It was
literally.
great.
And
Very, very much Paige wearing the sorry, I was late, I was doing stuff, and then Warden
him
coming in
coming
with
in,
the
I'm
hi,
doing
I'm stuffed.
yeah, like
Like
just having him walk in, right? And knowing that he had been there since the beginning of the fight with Jackson,
Mhm.
right? That is bonus content I want. I want to see what Warden's thinking as this fight's happening. Yeah,
Very
literally
good
like
fan fiction idea. Hold on.
I want to know like how stressed was he? What is he thinking of when she's successfully able to possess and like all of the like I need proud Warden moments. You know, like I
Yeah.
need him having those moments of like I am afraid for her. She looks really wounded, right? But I'm not doubting her
Yeah.
because I love that the wordless relationship communication once again because when he finally walks up to her, there's a point where it specifically says like he checks me for injuries.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, he does it without speaking. He's not, you know, they're still hiding everything.
it's the warring
Um,
personalities of teacher, trainer,
to,
Warden,
yeah,
and I
Boyfriend.
love this person,
yeah,
Warden. Yeah.
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 I just and so when they come in and then Ivy comes in, right? And the abyss is like, "How are you alive?"
Yeah.
Because she knows what everything is about to
Yep.
explode on her. And
Yep.
so for Ivy to come in and explain her point, right? Um and then Maria, I love her so much, right?
Yeah. She's
But
great.
once again, the love that I feel for Nick knows no bounds.
Oh,
Because Nick,
Nick.
being the way that he is, being the first person that shot the abyss,
Yep.
was
Mhm.
wild.
He
Because I'm like,
literally caution to the wind.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, no, you're not gonna kill her. She just went through all of this and you're gonna kill her.
He doesn't play around when it comes to Paige.
Yeah.
Nope.
And to have the Paige come in and call in the two Molishers, right? And the abyss be like, oh, so I'm assuming she's allowed to do that too. I'm like, man, like these adults who have never been told no
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
crazy because they throw these tantrums to such a spectacular level.
Yep.
And I'm like, even if you win, how are you going to expect these people to respect you?
Yeah.
Because you
I
just went, I
completely
can't
agree.
believe she did that to me.
Might as well
Violence.
stamp your foot.
Yeah,
Violence.
like, oh,
And
and
then the
so,
whole because we haven't talked about it really yet,
uh huh,
the syndicate being corrupted
uh
by
huh,
Oh,
Nishira, like it's not a surprise because anybody who disagrees with her can just get shipped out.
yeah,
yep.
yep.
The
And,
okay, okay, the gray market then I'm
The
guessing
gray
we're
market,
uh-huh,
yes.
I remember when that was revealed to me, I had to put the book down and process for a minute, like,
yeah,
Yes.
because so many things started clicking into place before it was even explained. The
mhm,
biggest thing for me about the gray market was that, essentially Paige was, like sold. They
Yes.
got to her, it all suddenly made sense. All the questions we had from book one where we're like, why were they suddenly on the train that night? The train
Yeah.
that she was on? Why did
Yeah.
they know where she lived? Why did they know where she was running?
Yeah.
And now you have the answers to that. So how did you guys feel when you learned about the gray market, and did you have like pieces click into
If
place?
I had the physical book in my hand, I either would have thrown it or bit into it. But instead, I just had to put my iPad down and sit and stare into the abyss for like 5 minutes.
Oh yeah.
It's like, I just couldn't.
It really hit hard, right?
Yeah, it did. Because she thought, you just think
She
back.
thought she messed up.
Yeah, she
Yep.
thought she messed up. You think back to Paige in the Bone season where she's like comfortable where she's at. Like she has the Mollisher role, like checks and protects her and all of this. And then you have the Paige in the Mime Order. It's like, man, like, oh, she was failed on every level.
And
Yep.
it's the fact that her getting caught in the bone season really messes with her
Throughout the whole book.
ideas of like her own capabilities.
Yeah.
Because it causes her to doubt her choices, because she's like, man,
It
like I
shakes her
should have,
confidence.
yeah, like I should have, not ran this way. I should have taken a different route, like all of these things. And I'm like, oh, sweet baby, like you were gonna get caught because they sold you. Like you
Mhm.
were what they were looking for. There was no way for you to
Yeah.
get out of that. It was either Scion catches you or the syndicate turns you in. Like there was
Right.
Yep.
not there was so the abyss has a poltergeist, right?
Oh yeah.
I'm so curious because they mention at the beginning that they're looking for the Ripper,
Okay.
right? I'm
Yes.
so curious
I've come prepared
because
for this. Go
I
on.
immediately was like, oh, is that poltergeist this elusive Ripper, right? Because the abyss is the one that bought the detective.
Yes.
But sorry, that if I am recalling correctly, and excuse me if I'm wrong because it's been a couple weeks since I've read, isn't the poltergeist that the abbess had the same one that attacked Paige when she was an
Yes.
itty bitty baby? Right?
Oh.
No.
No?
I don't
No.
know. I thought you were going because the poltergeist the abyss has is the poltergeist that Shira has. Because that's the one
Correct.
that got
Yes.
to Warden.
Yes. Yes. Correct. But
Because
I
then
Paige
don't
like
know.
asks,
wasn't there a mention? Didn't Paige? I could have
no, you're
100%
good.
hallucinated it because I could have dreamt about it and then it just became canon in my head. But
Uh-huh.
like
So real.
when the red poppies and all of that, when Paige first realized who she was, there was a
Mhm.
poltergeist.
Yes.
Yes.
Was that Nishira's or was that Jackson's poltergeist?
I
I
think it
don't
was
think
just
it
a
was
poltergeist.
I think it was just a poltergeist in the wild. But I wouldn't be surprised
Write that down as a
if
fan fiction. Write it down. Write
Yeah.
it down.
it's the blue pen. Okay.
Write that down. Write that down.
But I do think that Samantha Shannon might have plans for that poltergeist. Like she never
Yeah.
does anything without reason. I
Yeah.
don't
Like it's a weird
recall
thing to
that.
randomly start bringing in a poltergeist that is that powerful, right? And then
Yeah.
on top of that, bringing in this idea of like the Ripper and like all of these.
The Ripper specifically in
Mm-hmm.
this version of London, in order to like paint Voyance as terrible,
Right.
they've pinned the identity of Jack the Ripper
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
on Victoria's son Albert, I believe.
Yes.
Is what we learn in the first book, but I think that well, we that's not true historically. This is
Yeah.
government. I think in the series though as well, it's government propaganda against Voyants, and this Ripper ghost they have is the actual ghost of Ripper.
Jack
I
the Ripper.
think. I think that's my theory about it.
Yeah,
I'm
because
a
they
huge.
say the whole thing and they're like, oh, like this Ripper was never caught. Maybe the detective,
They said it killed
like,
Catherine Eddowes, which is one of Jack the Ripper's victims,
yeah.
and
Yes.
Mary something else. I used to
Yeah.
know all their names. But anyway, I think that that's such an interesting because we see how like she does take real London history and warp it
Read,
in
yeah,
Yeah.
and I
into this.
love that it's such a thing about when you create a boogeyman for people to fear.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
have to associate them with something
That they know.
disgusting,
Yeah.
vile, and horrifying. So they slap
Mhm.
the identity of a voyant onto Jack the Ripper, and they're like, "Do you want a bunch of Jack the Rippers?"
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that's just so interesting what she does with the historical aspect in the
Yeah.
Mime Order is the history of Jack the Ripper.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
great.
We're
Uh-oh.
nearing chronologically the end
Yes.
of this book, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Lottie hurts.
Mm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Having her know that she is about to die
Yeah.
and taking that time to
Vocally
help the
support
cause
Paige. Yep. Mhm.
because it's what first off it's what the revolution needs, right? But it's also what Paige needed.
Yeah.
Because if that didn't happen, and it'll probably still happen either way, Paige is going to feel that death
Yeah.
because she couldn't do more.
Yeah. Can
You know, and
confirm.
so having Lottie know that, and instead of using that those last seconds to do something for her,
Mhm.
she's like, one, the revolution needs to survive, so I'm gonna say this. But two, right? Paige needs to somehow make peace with the fact that she could not do anything.
Right.
And I am
Mhm.
not gonna hold it against her that she could not save me.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and that is incredibly painful, right? I was really emotional. And then pieces start clicking together in the following couple paragraphs, right?
Mhm.
When
Yeah.
Nashira exists in the way that only Nashira can exist,
Mhm.
right? And Paige is like, okay, but like your friends are dead. Like, why are you still so confident that this is going to work when these people that you're all mentioning, they're all dead? Right? And then she's like, dun 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 dun, come out, my other friend.
Yeah.
And it's freaking Jackson.
Of course.
My other friend who I haven't seen
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
for a very important amount of time.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 You guys did the math on that?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Because
Mhm.
then it makes sense as to why she was looking for the white binder.
Yeah.
I had to keep my mouth shut so tight when you said that in the last one. You were like, why was she looking for him? I was like, I guess that'll be revealed at some point. I don't know, man.
Yeah, like,
Like,
and it took pieces got how I just bit my tongue, but pieces got connected so quickly because I'm like, she's looking for the white binder.
Yep.
She Jackson is immediately concerned with the fact that he's being looked for, right?
yep,
And I'm like, oh my god, he like puts this in the back of his mind of like, oh, they're looking for me, right? Let's talk
yep,
about the connections, but I don't want to talk about the connections because I'd rather Izzy, who knows more, talk about
yes.
these connections, right? So the
Oh,
math is
okay.
mathing,
Yes, the math is
right?
mathing.
What does it tell us?
That the person who betrayed the first revolution, the reason that the Ranthan are called the Scarred Ones,
Yep.
the reason that somebody knew exactly how to rescue Paige and where this underground led to that would get her out, the reason is because Jackson was the traitor from
Yep.
the Bone season year X something. But he's the betrayer.
Yep.
And that's where all his money and power and everything have come from. He sold out all the Ranthan in exchange for being the white binder, and that's why she's looking for him.
I knew,
I've never
and
wanted to punch a man more in my life.
it makes so much more sense as to why he didn't want to do anything,
Yeah.
right?
Yep,
Because I'm like, okay, Jackson is the worst,
yep,
right? But the fact that he wouldn't even want to create better resistance to like send shield. I'm like,
yep,
okay, he doesn't want to talk about the refs. He wants Paige to forget that. Like, okay, weird decision, right? But now you have the very real threat of Sen Shield. Your
Yep.
people are not making any sort of headway in stopping it, right? Because
Yep.
Danica needs that prototype. Jackson is specifically not getting her a prototype.
Nope, getting
Like,
absinthe instead.
and like all of these things are happening, right? And so I was just repeatedly like, why is Jackson, like, why is his self-preservation skill in terms of the seven seals so poor right now? You know,
Don't
like, why is he
forget,
not reading the writing on the wall? And so
don't
then when
forget
things get
Paige.
connected, uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, Paige telling him also, hey, help me get the word out about this thing. And he's like,
Yeah.
that's not important. We don't need to tell anybody about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, why is he's ignoring all the writings on the walls? Why? Right? And so when we find out that connection to Nashira,
Mhm.
right? I'm like, one, it makes sense because he knew that Sen Shield would never be a problem for his and his own,
Yep.
right? Because if they started getting caught, right? His
Yeah.
old friend
Mhm.
would be up here and he's like, my people would be
Right.
covered. I don't
Yep.
have to worry about this.
Mm-hmm.
But he can't communicate that to Paige
Without outing the fact that he was the
himself.
betrayer.
Yes.
And then also think on this, the whole of the Mime Order. He keeps being like, hey, how's that gift of yours? Hey,
Yeah.
how's that gift of yours? You're telling me that like you didn't learn anything while you were away?
Yeah,
He
when like
knew
100%.
Yeah.
he knew the penal colony would be training her with her gift, and he
Mhm.
was hoping that she had come out of it like
Mhm.
the dreamwalker he wanted. So it
Right.
stands to reason, how much of a part did Jackson play with Ivy in
Yeah.
getting Paige
Paige.
abducted?
Yeah.
Because we learn in the Bone season and all that he has been pushing her to her absolute limit, trying to
Mhm.
get her to dreamwalk.
Yeah,
And
and it wasn't
she, to
working.
the point, and she admits, I plateaued, he's lost interest. Isn't that just the thing that would
Yeah.
prompt Jackson to be
To be
like,
like,
I
"Yeah,
have a
take
voyant
my
for the
dreamwalker."
Yeah.
take my
Yeah,
dreamwalker, make her better.
yeah.
Right.
And I think that
And
there,
the timeline makes sense
yep.
Mhm.
because Jackson comes in conveniently the
Hmm.
same night that
Yep.
she and the rest of the Voyants are getting out.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know,
And
I'm like
if you
you
read
want
the
to send
phone
her in to get
call,
trained,
exactly.
but you don't want her to become Nashira's pet.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because then you
He
lose her.
waits. Yeah.
Yeah.
He waits for the bicentenary because he knows how it works and he wants to make sure that somebody's done the work for him. And also, if you go back and you read the Bone season and you go to the conversation where Paige calls Jackson, she goes, Jackson, an underguard got me and I killed him. And his reaction with
It's like,
the
"Oh my
end of the
god."
last book, it makes so much sense. He was like, amazing, Paige. And she's
Yeah.
like, hey, no, Scion's after me. And he's like, actually, why don't you go and leave your house and go to this
Yeah.
Run towards the
location?
Thames. Like,
Yeah, don't worry about it. Just do that. Just do that for me.
yeah.
And you'll be safe. He was thrilled. It's
Yes.
all been this is why he's my favorite character, like, to talk about, is he doesn't do anything
He's
without
calculated.
it having some point to it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's insane. He's not actually in the Mime Order, he's not my favorite character. My favorite character is on page, I think, 3 times, and it's none other than Jack Hickathrift, who
Nice. The little
I
charmer.
the pretty boy who, when he's faced with a child in the ring, he's like, I
Yeah.
don't want to hit a little kid, and he gets like his tendon cut because he's like, oh, it's a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
And
Jack
like, or
Hickathrift.
in this murderous ring, right? And she's like, "Are you
Yeah.
gonna stab me?" And he's like, "Not till I see your face."
No. It's just I have so many headcanons about Jack Hickathrift. He
Yeah.
he's never
And
gonna be important though, guys.
he doesn't hold any grudges once she wins.
Yeah.
Nope.
right? Like he's in the background yet again, and he's like, go Paige.
Yeah.
I didn't die. He seems he's
Yeah.
like, I'm still pretty and I didn't die. And I
Yeah.
love a vain man side character like Jack Hickathrift
Yeah.
who's just like, oh, I
Who could
got
just easily
punched.
be the worst.
Yeah.
And
Oh
he's
yeah.
so kind to our
So yeah.
protagonists.
Yeah.
This guy goes, I got all my teeth. Okay, I'm fine. No, it's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
You can win. I got all my teeth.
That's
Like,
my boxes have been checked, you know?
he's my
Um
favorite by far. Yeah.
no, I have no complaints with the Mime Order. I think it was a perfect sequel
Yeah.
Which
because
is
it
saying something
answers
because it's so the
because it's
second book
hard.
usually, like, doesn't
Yeah.
quite hit the same way as the first book, because the first book introduces you to everything, and you always have that soft spot for number 1, and then number 2 comes along, you're like, "Oh, it was good." Like, I love
Yeah.
seeing all my characters again, but, like,
Yep.
you know? But this was
The
just
stakes were very, very much heightened.
yeah.
Yeah. I immediately am picking up the songwriting or yeah, that's what it's called. Yeah. I'm not tripping.
That
Yeah.
first chapter of the Song Rising,
Yeah, I think I'm immediately going to the store
yeah,
tomorrow. I'm
it
picking up
picks up
the
right
rest
where
of
it
the
left off.
series. Like, I'm just gonna have
Yes.
them
It's
all.
horrifying.
Yeah.
Get the
Like,
box set, the new paperback box set.
Yeah. I just
But I'll say that like as far as the things that when I was rereading that I forgot about, like big moments for me, when the pamphlet came out and it had
yeah,
been changed,
changed.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
and we still don't know how or why. So that's a mystery that you're going to have to keep following. The identity of the Rag and Bone Man, we still don't know.
Yeah. Gotta know. Who
Do
the hell is
do
this
either
man?
of you have theories about who the Rag and Bone Man is?
Sort of?
Okay.
Not
I
really?
am I immediately here's the thing. I don't have names for who that is, right? Because
Okay.
my brain immediately is like, I'm double checking the people that are in the room at the same time as him,
Mm.
right? But the
Mhm.
secondary thing that throws that into the water is you could have a stand-in for him. So it
Yes.
doesn't matter if there's people still in the same room with him,
Mm. Mhm.
right? Like my brain, just throwing it out there, goes, it would make so much more sense if it's like Jackson.
Mm. Mhm.
Or is I'm trying to think because the one that would hurt is obviously Nick, but like I'm trusting Shannon. I'm
That's
trusting her.
devious.
Yeah, I'm trusting her. Write that down. Write that down. Do a,
Said I love her. I would love her even more if she did that. Like just for the
well,
drama. I live for drama, okay? I can't help it.
yeah.
Right?
You
I'm
know,
a chismosa at heart. Like I give it to me. Like
I'm gonna back up. Like I'm not confirming anything, but to support your theory of it being Nick. Nick is somebody with ties to Scion.
yeah.
Paige frequently remarks all the time, like, how has Nick been able to live this double life and never get caught? We know that Scion's in bed with the refs.
Mhm.
He's in a very good position to be the Rag and Bone Man. He also has the most money.
Yeah.
Um,
I just think
I
it
was
would make
thinking
sense.
David. Like
you
David.
who?
David?
David. I'm glad you
Mm,
remember David. Yeah, keep
Yeah.
him
We didn't
keep him in
see
the forefront.
anything of him in this
mm.
book, but like he lived.
He's not done. I will
He's
tell you
not
that.
done. He was doing something in the bone season.
Hmm.
He was up to something.
Yeah, he was. That's true. That's another really good guess. David, we also know that he really immediately got in good with the
Yes.
Sargus family.
Yes,
Yeah.
he did.
And he
Immediately wanted
clearly
to be good with Paige.
Yeah.
he knows everything about that. Like he knew the hiding spots of the penal colony. It was almost like he'd been there longer than everybody else. And Paige remarks that he has a lot of freedom for one of the
I
jackets. That's another really good guess. And we didn't see him at all during the Mime Order, so
the person who we didn't see, and even when we saw him, was Julian.
Julian has been
Also, where the
concerningly
hell is
absent.
Michael?
Michael, okay, so everybody, I'm going to do this because this is an exception. Everybody's always asking Samantha Shannon, where is Michael?
Yeah.
And I believe she has said that Michael is fine.
Okay.
Michael is fine. And we should be patient, but he's okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if
I would
that's
not be
changed.
surprised. I would not be surprised if Julian was connected because the only time we see him is when he's being used as some sort of leverage.
Yep.
Right? Like he gets put onto the posters
Yep.
of like, hey, we're looking for this person. But that's it.
It's true. You're right. And then when he lived in the penal colony, he was very defiant and rarely paid for it. Like he got sent to the shanty town, but he was never as
He didn't get
injured
his
as
butt
anybody
beat.
else.
He
No.
didn't like.
And when he entered the shanty town, it was right in time to hear about Paige's revolution, which would give him a good exit to get back to London and resume business. So that's another really good guess.
Yeah, because I have
My
to.
biggest flex, though, guys,
Uh-huh.
is that I guessed who the Rag and Bone Man was immediately. I
Mm,
wasn't sure and I had nothing to back it up. I only had vibes and I was like, this
yeah,
person.
because my third guess, if I'm really putting
Yes.
my hats in the ring, right, is Paige's dad.
Gonna suggest that as well, but like I don't know, like the way when she was watching him in that restaurant or bar or whatever, and that talk he was having with whoever that lady was, like
Yeah.
it didn't strike me.
But then we have to remember that the rag dolls have spying abilities through those tunnels.
Mm-hmm. It is
Right?
very strange that on the last night that Paige had with her dad, she
He's nice to
remarks
her.
that he was super nice. He made her food. It seemed like
He
they were
like kept
turning
her
over a
there
new.
longer when she's like, I need to get out of here.
It's almost
Like
like he was apologizing. He seemed sad about the way he treated her. And then, remarkably, Scion hasn't disposed of him
Mhm.
for
yeah,
being
because Scion
affiliated with
has
a
no like
rebel.
I don't care how loyal this man has been to Scion. He's an Irishman who his daughter has turned out to be a murderous voyant in their eyes.
Mhm.
You're gonna tell me that after she escapes and she's on the loose, he's just able to keep his job?
Mm.
Like,
It's you've made really good guesses. I will say these are people
thanks.
that I never considered. Well, not all of them, but there are people in here that I remember when I was thinking about it and like going back and forth. Because like I said, when I guessed who it was, I was never sure. But
Yeah.
some of these people I didn't even consider that you guys have considered.
Yeah. I'll get a murder board out. Don't even worry.
I mean, my other
I'm
guess would
very
be Alfred,
excited.
because
Hmm?
Alfred, like my other guess would be Alfred. Is that his name?
Oh,
Because like
the book guy.
the book guy, yeah, like
Yeah,
just his,
Mm, because he
he's
exists
very
in a
writing.
way.
theatrical.
Yeah.
He is very theatrical, and it just there was something about him. Like
Yeah, it
Mm.
has to be.
I know he was introduced for the purpose of the pamphlet and everything like that, but like in all the times like it's that I've read Samantha Shannon, I feel like there's always that extra bit. Like it's never
Mhm.
just you never just introduce that one character
Yeah.
Yeah.
just for
He
this
does have
one
a good
plot point.
relationship with Jackson,
And he does have
too.
a good relationship with Jackson.
He says they're
Mm,
old friends, And
yeah.
like
I don't know.
All very good guesses.
we're just gonna have to keep reading.
Yep.
Yep.
I'm gonna devour the song Rising once it's in my hands.
Yeah, fun fact about the song Rising, that this one is actually and as you guys know, I love the whole series. So
But
don't
this one's your
listen to
favorite.
that. This one's my least favorite.
Oh.
It's not bad. It's not bad. It's just like if I had to rank them, like this would
Where's
probably be it's a lot of so this one, when it was originally published, was she
Mhm.
switched editors to a YA book editor. And
Mm.
that's why it's the slimmest of all of the books, is it got chopped to just the action, but it moves at a breakneck speed. It's very fast because it was again edited by somebody who's used to doing YA. I'm excited to see what's happened to it in the author's preferred text and if it moves up on my list.
where does the
Hmm?
Mime Order rate for you?
Number one.
Number one.
That's my favorite. I think just
Yeah.
because I'm so used
I
to
think when
sequels.
we Yeah, I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
once we've caught up with this entire series, we should definitely do a ranking.
I would love to do a author's preferred text and like the original
Mm,
text ranking for myself because
yeah.
Mhm.
as
It probably
I
changes,
just
yeah.
I'm 2 chapters into The Song Rising, and already I'm like, "Oh, maybe I actually
I'm
really love
enjoying
this
it a little
one."
bit.
Yeah.
I'm as enthusiastic as I was about the Mime Order. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no,
Yeah,
I'm
and I
super
think
excited.
I would love to hear you guys' reactions to the first 2 chapters. So
Oh,
please feel free to like
yeah,
spam
yeah,
me.
yeah. Yeah. We'll get there. We'll get there.
I'll use it as content
Yeah.
Yeah,
It'll
on
be content,
Insta.
don't
It'll
worry.
be content, don't worry.
Yeah. We love
let's
content.
go.
But unless anyone has anything else to add,
Let
this
me
has
look at my
been
note real quick.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Hold
You
on.
did
I
give
had a
her
couple.
you did give her a list of things she needed to come
I
prepared
said my
with.
favorite
We
quote
said
You
quotes, we
did,
said
yep.
and my
character.
favorite character.
Yep.
Scene?
My favorite scene is the "Who did this to you?" but from Paige.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Which
Yes.
is
Yes.
um you can thank me later. I let go of him, Warden, who did this to you. And I was like, like
Yeah.
I
I
love
don't
They're now in her world. So she's
Yeah.
like, "Tell me who did it, and
Yeah.
I will deal with it because now I
Mhm.
can." You know,
I'm
they're
not a
not.
big "who did this to you" person,
Oh, I am.
but I think just because I've seen it done too many times.
Mm,
That's
So
fair.
seeing it in this way, in the
Yes.
reuniting, my soul left my body.
Yeah.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and that was my last word on it was the "Femme who did this to you."
because you know, like anytime Warden has seen her hurt, he's the same way. He just doesn't say it. You know, every
Yeah.
single time we see him come into the bone season when he's being like called for because she's getting her like butt beat or she's
Yeah.
being punished for something, he's like consistently walking in this like savior and is like, I will train her to be
Yeah.
better. And it's just him like, okay, we're gonna get you a bandage and we're gonna
Yeah.
feed you.
We're gonna put you in a
And
bed
sleep,
so you can get some sleep.
Yeah.
Warden #1 sleep advocate. He's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
sleep,
Have you
take a
slept
nap.
enough?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
He's
supposed to
that
be
That's
friend
fun.
that's always like, shower if you feel like everyone hates you, take a nap,
Yeah.
eat something,
yeah.
I feel
gone
like
to
he's
Love
the
therapy.
him.
one that's like, Paige, you need a Snickers because you're not
He's
acting like
You're
yourself.
not you when you're
yeah.
hungry, Paige.
He's a
Yeah.
therapy boyfriend. Ugh.
Yeah, that dynamic is on full display in the next book. It's
Here for it.
strange. I like it's but like I said in our first talk, Paige is always move forward, even when things make it difficult for her to do so. And I think that's what just
Mhm.
gives this series so much momentum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has been an episode of Margin Mavens where we talk about the Mime Order.
Yeah.
Our next episode will be about the song Rising in a couple weeks. But we're
Yay.
super excited and we will see you guys in the next video.